Welcome back, everyone, to the U.S. Soccer Podcast. David Goss and Megan Klingenberg with you for a phenomenal episode we have coming up, as it is finally approaching fall, which means college soccer is back. We are so excited to watch all the action out on the field, and we are going to be talking about the women's game coming up here in just a moment. We've got a phenomenal interview coming up with Coach Tiffany Roberts Sahaydak from the University of Central Florida. But Kling, before we get there, took a look at the preseason rankings for the 2025 women's college soccer season. Can you guess what school sits at number one?
Oh, it's definitely UNC. Get out of here. It's 100%. It is, isn't it? I didn't even look.
It absolutely is.
I knew it. I mean, we won the national championship last year. We didn't have too many players leave. It just feels right. It feels right.
There is, I think, nothing I have learned about you more than the fact that you love UNC, you love Tar Heel Blue, and I felt really fortunate that I gave you that opening to be able to rep it.
Yeah, thank you so much. I even, in our documents that we go through for preparing for this, I put all of my comments and questions and in like all the things that I insert in Carolina Blue. So I'm still a Tar Heel through and through, and go to hell, Duke.
I'm sure we won't leave that in, but we are lucky enough to have another Tar Heel with us. Tiffany Roberts Sahaydak, over 100 caps with the U.S. women's national team, won the 1999 Women's World Cup. If you've heard of it, it was a pretty big event, and has coached University of Central Florida women's soccer and VCU over the last 18 years. So awesome conversation digging into her past as a teenager on the U.S. women's national team, playing through the ups and downs of pro leagues that came and fell, World Cups, Olympics, everything in between, her career as a coach, as well as what's coming up this year in college soccer. So let's get to that interview right now. We've got a lot to talk to you about. We're very excited for this conversation. We are going to talk about college soccer, which is just around the corner for starting, which I always love, because to me it feels like fall, and fall's my favorite, even though I live in Florida now, and you are based in Florida as well. There's less of a fall vibe down here, but it's still a great time of year when college soccer comes around. But we want to start our conversation at the beginning of your story and talk about your career and your passions and where you've come from. And just at the very base, how did you start playing, and how different was the women's soccer landscape back when you began?
Oh, geez, that's a long story, but I'll try not to make it so long. But yeah, the one of the reasons why I got started is I have 3 older brothers, and my dad was just, he was an athlete himself. So of course he got all the kids into sport. But something I really appreciate is that he did not treat me any differently than he treated my 3 bros. He was like, oh, they're all going in soccer, they're all running track, whatever. He didn't treat me differently. So even out like on the street back in the day when kids would play sports out in the street in the neighborhood, if I came in complaining or crying about something, he'd be like, well, then don't play. Like, they're not going to accommodate you because you're a girl. So basically suck it up and go out there, or, come inside and do what you want. But so he really treated me like everybody else. And I think, that did a lot for me growing up. So I learned how to lose a lot. I never won, but I think when you lose a lot, you figure out how to pick yourself back up and keep going. So my brothers really taught me how to be resilient and keep charging on, and yeah. So, that I did play on a club soccer team when I was younger. And in California, I grew up in California, Northern California, and there were plenty of girls playing. So I wasn't one of those national team players back in the day that were like a Christine Lilly, I think, had to play on an all boys team, So right. I was actually surrounded by girls, and I think that was a good thing for me because I already had the boy competition already. But playing with a lot of girls, for me, it was just so nice because I'm like, this is so fun. Like, we compete, we hang out, we go to pizza parties, we do slumber parties, and really it was like the competitive piece and the social piece, and putting those things together was a dream. So but yeah, so obviously a ton has changed, because I don't think my parents were spending as much money as I am spending right now for my kids to play soccer. But
truly,
so I'm really lucky. I had a family that supported me and brothers that kicked my butt. Am I allowed to swear?
100%.
Oh, okay,
yeah,
okay, yeah.
I think the rule is if you've won a World Cup, you technically can do whatever you want.
Okay, we've earned that. Okay.
And that's like across everything. It's not just on the podcast.
I truly love this rule, and I think it may only be a gas rule, but I am gonna bring it into so many other things from now on.
Yeah. Yes.
When I was growing up, I remember going down with my mom on a vacation to North Carolina to the Outer Banks, and I watched UNC play. And I was like, I want to be just like these girls. I want to be one of them. And that was my whole goal growing up because there wasn't professional soccer. There really wasn't a women's national team that I was aware of at that time. So I want to know, back in those days, did you think it was possible to make a career in the game when you were growing up?
Yeah. So yes and no. So definitely no to being like a professional soccer player. Because obviously, like you said, there was nowhere to see that. We had no role models. But I did dream of being an Olympian. So when I was younger, one of my favorite stories is, tell people and like young kids is that the first time I saw women compete in the Olympics was the 1984 Olympics. I was like in second grade. I saw Mary Lou Retton win a gold medal. And standing on that podium, I saw Jackie Joyner Kersee like kick ass in track and field and like FloJo. And I was a gymnast then too. I ran track, I did soccer. So I was like, oh my gosh, women competing at the highest level, representing your country. Something just went off in me. And from that time, second grade, I told everyone I am going to the Olympics. Like, that is my dream. So I guess it was for soccer. I mean, not for soccer. And it was for track and Olympics because there was no soccer team to watch in the Olympics. And so getting back to your question, Kling, it was like I had dreams of being an Olympian, but not necessarily soccer. And then as I got older, the first time I learned about the U.S. Women's National Team and it existing was like in 1992. So like right after the World Cup. Thankfully, my high school soccer coach was like, hey, there's a women's national team. Like, let me put I want all of you guys to watch the final. And he put in like the VHS tape and we all sat around in the gym we watched it. And I'm watching Michelle Akers, April Heinrichs, Karen Gabera, like, win. And I'm like, I was
total
like,
studs.
how? Yeah, I'm like, how do I, like, and so from then, of course, I have the Olympics in my mind, but then I'm like, oh, I fell in love with, like, Karen Gabera. Full circle moment, guys. This is a random note, but Karen's daughter ended up coming to play for us at UCF.
No way.
Yes. So Karen and I became teammates on the first Olympic team ever. But that was crazy, too, because she was, like, my role model from when I first watched the U.S. Women's National Team. But it was on a VHS tape that he must have recorded. I don't even know how he got access to that game, But yeah, so that was probably like freshman year in high school when I saw that.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
I love that full circle moment.
Yeah, so many. There's so many of them.
So you were then a high school phenom, and in high school you got called up to the U.S. Women's National Team. Take us back to pre-email and whatever else was going on. How do you find out? How do you even know you're like being noticed? Like, what's the process from I'm just a normal high schooler to I'm about to potentially become part of this dream that I've had?
Right. Yeah, it's nuts because, now you look at it, we have this whole scouting network and, they're at my daughter's games and my daughter, since she was probably like 8th grade. So there's all these opportunities and different pathways, right, for our young players to be identified. But back in the day, it was basically ODP, Olympic Development Program, and that was the only route. And so my club coach at the time told me, hey, you should try out for ODP. I didn't know what it was. And he was explaining it to me. So that was like a state team or like more like a region or city team. I don't know. So anyway, I just kept making each one, like state team. Then I was on the regional team. Then I went to this interregional tournament. And there, I believe Anson Dorrance was the head coach of the women's national team at the time. Legendary Lauren Gregg was there. As an assistant coach too. And I think she may have identified me in that ODP tournament. So I was 16 and they basically said, I thought I was trying out for the under 20, like a paper team. I don't even think it was like a legit under 20 team. They're like, we're going to make a under 20 national team. And put it on a paper and congrats.
Yeah.
Yeah. But then all of a sudden they were like, hey, the women's national team will be here next week. Do you mind staying an extra week in California to be with the U.S. team? And I was like, what? Like Mia Hamm's like in my binder right now, like a picture of her from like People magazine. Like it was like nuts. So like I'm like, what am I even doing? I definitely had imposter syndrome. I was like, what this is like a joke. Like is
That's
this
very much a real team. That's not a paper team anymore.
right.
It always cracks me up when somebody like you, who's so accomplished, says that they have imposter syndrome. I just find that so outrageous. But it happens, I feel like, to a lot of us when we get to that moment, and when you're meeting your favorite players, these legends who you've looked up to, your role model. And so my question is, did any one of them sort of take you under their wing, give you advice, and show you the ropes around the national team?
I'd have to say there was a handful of them. Like,
Yeah.
It wasn't just necessarily like one person, but everyone. I actually use this in my environment as a coach now. Like one of my like big core values really like taking care of people when they come into the environment. Like how do we nurture them? How do we embrace them and get them feeling comfortable? Because obviously you want them to get going as fast as possible. And so, Foudy popped into my head, Jules, because, she was so great she was like pre-med. She might have been a senior at Stanford or something when I got there. And so she was like helping me with homework. She was, we would go on the road and she would tutor me in chemistry.
Amazing.
Karen Gabera, I know I've already said her name, but she really took me under her wing. She would like want to know about my boyfriend stories. And she's like, well, I'm married. She has this joke where I'm like, hey, want to see my prom photo? And she's like, want to see my wedding photos? She'd try and like write my papers. She'd always be like, want me to write your paper? Like, I don't know. She wasn't a bit bored. Like she wanted to do my homework for me. But really like
This is so wholesome, actually.
Yeah. Saskia Weber, like she was so great. Like one of our goalkeepers, she just was kind of always by my side checking in. But really, like, everyone played a role in my little role there when I first got there, and I'm so grateful for it. And like I said, I think it guides me as a coach now.
You mentioned just before this, the dream was the Olympics. You eventually go on a few years later to playing in the 1996 Olympics, a home Olympics. Was it everything you imagined?
Yes, it was. That was pretty nuts because the year before the Olympics was the 1995 World Cup. So that was my first World Cup that I had to make that roster. So I had just graduated from high school. And this is when back in the day, we didn't have a pro league to stay fit and to stay, ready, right? So we would live together for Kling. Did you guys ever have to live together, like to train? Like
we did, and actually, this is
6 month periods.
Yeah, this is actually something I want to talk
Get
about
into a little bit. Okay.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, so we lived together so I left January of my senior year. I left early high school to move to Florida. This is another full circle moment. Moved to Florida, and we lived here for 6 months prior to the World Cup and trained. And there was more than 20 of us here. So the whole 6 months, you're wondering in the end if you're going to be on the roster, which is an emotional roller coaster, right?
Yeah.
So made that roster, and then we did the same thing again the next year. So we lost in the semifinal of the World Cup, and then now we're training for the first Olympics ever. So now but they're cutting the roster. The first Olympic roster for women in 1996 was only 16-player roster. So we knew that the 20 of us, that's such a joke. So it's like 20 of us, we knew at least, 4 of us are going to get left off at least, or new people might be coming in and knocking some other people off. So that was very stressful training. But yeah, so just making the roster that year was just obviously very amazing and exciting. But, it was the 16 of us, and we were able to, we played Norway in the semifinal, and they had beaten us the year before. And so getting to have that same challenge and revenge and getting through that semifinal and beating them and moving on.
And when they did like the crawl, I remember that.
Oh, yes.
The crawl, that sticks in my mind.
Yes. I feel like some of the older players, like Michelle Akers, is like, never, like, forget that, you know? I'm like crying. And
She
then
took
she's
it
like,
personally.
"No." Oh, yeah. She's like, we'll never forget that. Like, it was like that came up all the time, like even when we were training for the next year, you know? So, but yeah, so it was so intense, guys, just to like make the roster. But then the Olympics was just like, it was so cool because it was the first time ever and we knew we were making history. And, you know, I've drew so many pictures of myself on an Olympic podium from second grade. Like I actually have pictures of myself drawing. So to like walk back through that stadium, you know, you go in after the game to put on your ceremonial, you know, awesome outfit, swishy gear. I don't know, it was swishy for us.
Yeah.
Coming back
Bring
out,
it back. Bring it back.
Pure 90s, yeah.
Bring it back. Just coming back out in the stadium. And it was like on our home turf being in the United States and that was the most we've ever played in front of too. So I believe at that time it was like 76,000. So the amount of fans, we were just experiencing so many new things as a team and as the women's national team and just seeing those flickering of cameras and the, you know, at night. I mean, it's just like, I don't know. I get goosebumps every time I talk about it. It like doesn't get old. It will be with me forever. And I'm very, very grateful to have been part of such a special, special squad.
Was there a moment where you were like, this is so fun, I'm having the time of my life? Or was it more stressful or some other feeling? Because I know for me, in 2015, I was stressed the entire time. And looking back, I wish I could have had a little bit more fun. So I always like to ask that question of players who've been to these world tournaments.
You know, I'm with you, like stressed, like the actual games. I think I don't think I ever, my whole career, I mean, I don't think I ever got to a point where like, this is just so fun because I'm like stressed.
I hear that.
I think we probably had some teammates that could do that, but like I unfortunately wasn't one of those. But I found I could decompress in between. So I wasn't stressed like the entire tournament, just like more like games and the actual competition. But I was able to have fun in between and decompress. Yeah, so I could figure that out on the side.
Did you have a lot of McDonald's? Because I had so much McDonald's at my Olympics.
You know what's crazy? I 100% forgot about that. But yes, because it was in the what do you call that? The Olympic Village, right?
Yeah,
like all the free
totally.
McDonald's. Okay, but our situation with soccer, I don't know how it was for you guys, but we weren't really in the Olympic Village ever because
only
you know
at
how
the
our
end.
stadiums were
Only
all
at the
over.
end, yeah.
Yeah. So I do remember going in there like once, but I'm sure I would have eaten it a little bit more at the time. Yeah, when it's just so accessible, I guess. But
yeah, I had way too much fun eating that. But so of course you were on this Olympic team, but you were also a part of the iconic 1999 World Cup squad. And now we've heard you talk about how initially the plan was for the WNT to play in smaller stadiums. But the team fought against that. And can you talk to me how that went down? What's the story there?
we'll have to ask the older players on actually how it went down. I feel like I was just like the toddler on the team, just like, okay, guys, I'm just like, whatever you guys say, and I'm going to like follow. But like, you know, like the Foudies and the Lils and Mia, like they were like pushing through all of this and fighting for what was right and what great role models that I had, clearly. But yes, the story is that they didn't believe that we would be able to sell out bigger stadiums. They were concerned. And so we fought for that. And thankfully we did. And you saw the outcome of being in bigger stadiums and just getting to experience again, like we thought the Olympics was awesome and playing in front of 76,000. And then, you know, we play in our first match. Now I can't remember how many they were now, but like I know by our last match, it was 90-something thousand. And so, yeah, just to be able to experience that in a tournament over and over, game by game. And, you know, the Olympics is something different, right? It's like Americans love the Olympics and it's not necessarily about soccer, right? But a Women's World Cup, I mean, that is soccer. So that fact that we were selling out stadiums for a Women's World Cup was, yeah, that was really special.
It's wild because you like, as you said, 75,000 in the Olympics. I don't know the basis of that. You won't sell that number out again 3 years later after winning.
Well, I think the basis was just like, oh, well, it's Olympics. So people just go to games just to go see an Olympics. So it's like, we'll either go, people go to gymnastics, people go to track, people will go to whatever. So it's like any sport because it's the Olympics and it's the Olympic spirit. So I think that was the basis, maybe.
You then, of course, go on to win the 1999 World Cup. It's a pretty big moment in most people's lives. I think all of us can remember where we were. Obviously, it's much easier for you and some of your teammates to remember that. But I think that's one of those moments in history that everyone remembers. I'm just curious, as it was happening, let's say, during it and then after, how did you sort of see the perception of the sport and the perception of the team and the landscape shift?
Well, we saw the landscape shift, like we saw it. It was like the ball was rolling, like it was getting bigger and bigger, right? Like from our first match to the end. So just the fact that things were catching on and, we had teammates going on. I feel like Brandy was on Dave Letterman. Just the whole country started embracing the team and talking about it. And it was the first time I remember like our team being like mainstream, like popularity, like, oh, people know who we are. Like, this is crazy. Women's soccer, people know who we are. And so it was really cool just to see that was the first time that we kind of broke that barrier and just the average person knew who Mia Hamm was, And so we saw that snowballing as the tournament went on. But then obviously as the final occurred, we smashed, records and just to be part of that. I keep saying it was just so special, but it was like, it's just something that I think we believed in and we dreamt about, but like, I think at the same time we were nervous. Like I've heard Julie be like interviewed where she's like, oh yeah, we want bigger stadiums. And we're like, oh no, are we going to sell it out? Like you're scared, like you're fighting. And then you're like, I hope we do it. There's always going to be a little bit of doubt, a tiny doubt that might creep in. So, it's just crazy.
So the 99 team suddenly becomes mainstream, all of this popularity, but it also strikes me that the USWNT has this history and legacy of fighting for something bigger than just playing soccer. I'm curious if your team, the 99ers, were influenced by the 91ers, who also won a World Cup and had to fight for basic resources and recognition.
Absolutely. Like, for sure. Because there were some 91ers that were on, were there? Yeah, there were some players from the 91 that were on the 99. So they've been through it. So they've already seen a shift and where they started to where, we were going. And so I think to have that type of leadership and that type of insight already, to have gone through it and to have those type of people on our team obviously helps a lot. And then what was the other question, Clayton, you said? The 91er and was there another team? I had another team in my mind that I was thinking about.
No, just like everybody that came before. Yeah, exactly.
That's
yes.
I was thinking of 91ers, but then I was also in my mind, I was thinking about Billie Jean King, because I believe that she was like an integral part of us fighting too. And so, meeting with our lawyers and I know Foudy and I don't know which other players were like meeting with Billie Jean King. So she was a huge role model and a huge advocate and someone that was supporting like the team, like, no, go for this, push for this. Like, you got this. Like, we're never going to break this down if you don't do it. So we had a lot of like great people in our corner, legendary people in our corner that had gone through it as well. So yeah, I think you need those people in your corner to help you feel, like you can do it, just like as a player, like when you have that belief and you have that support and feel like you can get it done. Like, so there were a lot of people in our corner that were helping out.
So the 1999 World Cup, it has this great momentum, as you said, crushing records for crowds, for engagement, records that still stand for the most part. And then the next step was to have the league, to not have to train in Florida as a group, for 6 months out of the year. And you were part of the founding of the WUSA and the Carolina Courage. Obviously, we have now gone through multiple iterations of pro leagues, so we kind of know how some of these have ended. But just curious, as it started and as it got put together, like, what was the hopes, what was the thought process, and what was your experience sort of living through it?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, like we hoped that it would have lasted forever, at the time. But I will tell you, from the beginning, we were like, you're like, oh my God, we're actually going to be pros. The way that we had been living for however many years prior to this, some of them 10 years, they've been trying to get by being a U.S. women's national team and maybe having odd jobs and trying to train and stay fit and play in a World Cup when you don't have a league. So to actually have a league to support us and support our play and support the national team was incredible feeling. So we were really excited. We were very appreciative that we had the support. So it felt really good. So the 20 of us, they allocated, so the 20 World Cup players, they called us like the founding players of the WUSA, Women's United Soccer Association, and they allocated us to, I think it was 8 teams. You might have to check on that. So many iterations, I can't keep up. And so, yeah, the goal was to have it last as long as possible. And I remember signing my contract, and it felt so good. And it was like a 5-year contract, right?
Wow.
Yes, it was a 5-year contract for the 20 World Cup players. And so just to feel like you have this security but unfortunately 3 years in, we fold. And so yeah, obviously we were in a lot of distress, and but these are the iterations, like you mentioned, that we have to get through in order to get to the place where it's right and it's sustainable. And so it was just like another layer to help us to get to where we are today. So I'm incredibly grateful that I was part of that first iteration, and it was pretty special being part of that first league. But obviously we learned a lot from it. But it was like incredible competition. Like if you think about it, like after the World Cup, the best players in the world, the best players in the world were playing in the WSA. So
100%.
Like the coolest thing for me in the WSA was, so there was this player, her name's Hege Riis, and she played for Norway, and she was, golden boots, and she killed us in the 95 World Cup. So she was a problem for us. And then in 96, actually my job in 96 was to like mark her, take that lady out. We were like, talking crap about her all the time. Well, now she becomes my teammate in the WSA. So I just had this whole perception of Hege from international soccer, and I'm just like, well, at this, like, she's gonna be my teammate, whatever. But anyway, she is such a cool person. I love this human, and how lucky I was to be her teammate and to be, I was a little little defensive midfielder towards the end of my career. And when you have a Hege on your team, you just like go in the ball, and like, I don't care if she's 2 yards from you, you give her the ball. Like,
give it to her.
I don't like, it doesn't matter. Just get the ball to her. So it was really cool, like to have those experiences internationally. And now you have a league where the best players in the world you're playing with, still against, and it was just, nothing like it.
The funny part about Hege, because she actually ended up being an assistant coach on the U.S. women's national team when I was a part of the group.
Oh.
And so I got to know her pretty well because she was coaching with Pia Sundhage.
Yes.
And the funny part about her is I've only ever seen like videos of her play and like players who've played against her, what it felt like. But it's just such a different person off the pitch. She is so soft-spoken. She's so caring. And she will do anything in her power to help make you better. But meanwhile, you look at her on the pitch and she will rip your leg off to get the ball from you, and then like nutmeg you with your own leg and then go down and score. So it was so interesting meeting these people off of the pitch. And I bring that up because I feel like in no other iterations of the league, the WPS, the NWSL, there has never been a league like the WUSA before, because we have players like Hege. We have players like, I think even Marta played in that league at one point. And there was just no other leagues around the world. There wasn't, top level play in England or France or Spain or Sweden. There just was not any league that was paying like the WUSA. So that literally meant every soccer player that was the very best in the world played in the USA for the WUSA for 3 years.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's what made it just so different.
Yeah. What
right?
was that
We're not
like,
competing.
though?
Like, we weren't competing with any other league. So we were just pulling in every freaking like awesome.
It's literally the best soccer
world
you could have
class.
ever watched.
Yeah, no, it was like our little motto at Carolina Courage. I'll never forget. Like on the boards on the field, it said like world class up close. I'm like, yeah, that is like I will never forget it. It was like world class up close. I'm like, it is like playing in these more intimate stadiums too, like a little bit smaller stadiums, and getting to see the best in the world up close. They described it perfectly.
So, unfortunately, though, it didn't last. And we were curious just the experience on the inside when that happens. Like many of us normal people have worked jobs and you get let go or downsized or whatever it is. Like, was there one message that went out to everyone? Is that what it felt like? Like, what was that experience like?
Yeah, if I remember correctly, we were actually it was like the worst timing ever because we were preparing for the 2003 World Cup.
Yeah.
So we were already in camp, like World Cup camp, like within a month, like we were going to be together for a month prior to the World Cup kicking off. And that whole year was already a cluster because the World Cup was supposed to be in China and SARS ended up hitting. And so last minute, like I don't know how many months prior to, but something ridiculous, like 3 months or so, U.S. soccer decided, we'll host the World Cup. Essentially, like we're the only country that could probably put it together in this amount of time. And so it was already like very disappointing because we had a World Cup in mind. We were going to China, then SARS hit, so you get hit with that. Now it's like, now it's in the U.S. You're coming off of the 99 World Cup, which it was like as high as you can get, right? Of an experience, and now it's just kind of like wah, like now we're shifting, doing things quickly, and so we're preparing for the World Cup. And so I believe we were in Charlottesville, and I remember Foudy talking about it, but we basically said, yeah, we're folding, like it's going to go down, and they're going to release the statement basically like today. And so we were all told in camp. So this was like while we were in preparation of the World Cup. So we were trying to prep for the World Cup. And also, I'm sure individually, personally, as a team, we're like devastated thinking about what's next. Like what's next for me after the World Cup. So it's obviously a huge distraction where it's impossible to be only focused on, what's right in front of us, the World Cup, where that's where your head should be, right, in that moment. But it was obviously a big distraction, and I think we did the best that we could. But, we didn't win that year, and I think there's a ton of reasons that come together why we don't win. But I can't imagine that that's not one of the reasons, is being distracted from, just one piece of it.
Yeah, this actually happened in my career as well with the WPS folding. I was a rookie going into that, and then it was like right at the edge of a World Cup cycle as well. And for me, I actually sold my car, ended up going to play in Europe. But I remember feeling scared. I remember feeling anxious. I remember feeling like, is this it? Should I keep playing? This doesn't seem like a viable career path anymore. What happened to those players who weren't necessarily on the World Cup team? And are we actually missing out on a whole generation of talent that could have possibly helped the U.S. win World Cups later in the decade, but we just weren't able to keep them in the game?
Absolutely. Like, I feel like I'm a little bit a part of that. Like, even though like my career started early on the national team, I feel like I was still starting to play my best soccer in my mid-20s, you know? And so having that league was the best thing for me because I actually got left off of so I was on the 99 team, but I got left off of the 2000 team for the Olympics. And so thankfully, I had the league in 2001 when it started. So I had this weird gap year being on 99 and then not playing pro until 2001. So I had this weird 2000 gap year because I wasn't even in camp at all. I just got cut. So you're like, what are you going to do in this gap year? I'm a founding player. Like, I know I'm going to be on a team. So I was, you guys, this is another story. Like, I was living at my husband now, Tim Sahaydak, he was playing for the Miami Fusion. That was an awesome team. So I was down there with him because I had it basically a year off. And I was just playing with like Jamaicans and Trinidad and Tobago, guys from Trinidad and Tobago. Like, I was finding like environments for me to like compete and play. And I was just playing with men for like a year down in Miami, Fort Lauderdale area. But anyway, fast forward and I have this league. And what's so cool about the league was it gave me that platform to prove myself for the national team. So even though I got let go, now I'm like playing again and I'm exposed to, you know, the staff, and I get called back into the national team after a year. So if it wasn't for the league, I never would have, so I ended up making the next World Cup team. So I never would have made the 2003 World Cup team if I was not on a WUSA team, right? If the WUSA team didn't exist or the league didn't exist, I never would have been on a World Cup team again because that was my platform to showcase myself. And so thankfully I had that. But what ended up happening is for my career, just getting back, Cling, to what you're saying, in 2003, I made the World Cup team. But then again, these Olympic years, they were just not my year, I guess. But in 2004, I didn't make the final roster. And I was an alternate. But I had no league to go back to. So in 2004, after that Olympics, say 2005, I had no league and I was not on the national team anymore. But I felt like, I'm not saying I should have been on the national team anymore, but I definitely could have still played for the Courage. Like, I definitely could have still played.
And you were still mid-20s at that point,
I was
right?
like mid-late 20s. So I'm like, I'm playing, like, for me, the most confident I ever have. I'm not saying that necessarily was good enough for the national team, but I definitely felt like I could have been a pro in the U.S. and I didn't have that opportunity anymore. And so my choices were to go overseas or stop playing. And my husband and I, you know, we wanted to get married. So it was like, I don't feel, you know, and I had a long career and a career that I could be really proud of. But I think if there was a league, I definitely would have played a lot longer. And so I do think, getting back to what you're saying, like we missed out on a lot of players that were in the WSA that had to stop playing. And I could just think of my own Carolina Courage team. I mean, we had so many players on our team that were not on the national team, majority of them, right?
Right.
So they all stopped playing and they were only in their mid-20s or early 20s.
Yeah, it makes me feel like we missed out on the 2007 World Cup and the 2011 World Cup because of the end of this league.
Yeah. Yeah, that had to have impacted.
That's kind of a crazy thing to think about, that we could have won maybe even 2 more if it wasn't for having this league end. I recently just stopped playing, and it's been, at the beginning, it was wild. There was so much grief. I was crying all the time. I'm like, what in the absolute hell am I going to do now? But now I'm feeling better. Like, I've found things that I like to do. I'm really happy that my body doesn't feel like crap every Sunday anymore. But I'm wondering, how was it for you? And also, do you have any advice for me?
Get into coaching, Clint. Get into coaching.
Oh, really?
Yeah, man. How is it for me? For me, I didn't get to make the choice. That's what was so sad about it, And some of us are lucky where they are ready, they can step down when they want. But for me, like I said, there was no league and there was no national team opportunity for me anymore. So it wasn't like I got to make that choice. So it just happened. And so that is hard because that's like, you just got to deal with it. I mean, I guess this is where the cards, play out. But obviously the way that I manage those disappointments is just to be appreciative for what I did have and what I got to go through. Like, how am I going to look back and be like, oh, that career sucks? Like, no, like I feel really good about the career that I had. It started early and probably ended a little early, but I can't look back and have regrets because I have the best friends, in the world. And I've made so many connections. Soccer has been my whole life and career. And now I've, turned it into a career after playing. So for me, it's like going through disappointments. It's just really trying to think about what I am appreciative of. And that's always been helpful for me. But for now, Kling, you're an expert in soccer because of all of the time and hours you've put into being an expert. And so for us, it's like this is why my husband and I were in the same place, right? We're like, okay, well, we're experts. Like, why are we trying to he was like, should I go to law school? I'm like, we've put so much time here. Like, why don't we just try to make a career out of this?
Right.
But it was not our plan to be coaches. And so that's the other thing. Like, I felt like I didn't know we both didn't know what we wanted to do. I didn't know what I wanted to do, but we were like, well, we could just coach on the side for now until we figure out what we're going to do.
Right.
That's what we're doing. So we were coaching club soccer we got married and we were coaching club soccer in the town that I grew up in, San Ramon, California, shout out. And we were coaching for the club there and it was okay. I didn't mind the kids, but there was something missing, definitely.
Right.
Even when I was a player, I never thought I would be a coach. I thought I would go into maybe TV or commentating, maybe podcasts if back in the day that was a thing. But I never had it in my mind like coaching ever.
Right.
And so the coaching thing on the side, coaching kids, was just like this side thing to get us through some time. And then out of the blue, we got a call about college coaching. So out of the blue. So sometimes things just fall in your lap. But I will tell you, Kling, for you, it's been 18 years now. Was not part of my plan. I wasn't prepping for the moment. I should have paid more attention as a player, I think. I should have kept more documents,
Right.
Along the way.
We'll send this to all of your current players, by the way. Don't worry.
Oh, I've told them because I'm like, don't make my mistake, guys. You just don't know. But now everything's electronic, so they're going to have it forever.
True.
But I didn't, we didn't know, but it's been so awesome being like, you're going to want to be part of soccer forever. And the game needs you. Because of all the expertise that you have, and young girls and women need you because you're an awesome role model and you've been through it. And so, when you're a coach and you've had the career that you've had, Kling, I think the best thing about being a coach now and having the career that I had or that you've had, we can connect with our players so well and have empathy for every single person on the team, because once you've been on the national team, you've seen it all.
Truly.
You've been in every
you've
role.
Seen everything. Sitting on that bench, being the starter, doing all the stuff.
Hey, TR, can I get a banana?
Exactly.
No problem.
100%. Here's two.
Yeah,
here's two.
You're going in. No, actually, pass the bananas down. Me needs a banana. So it's a humbling experience, and you've been through every role. And so I think when you're making choices as a coach, and you're communicating as a coach, you're really thinking like a player because you've been there. And so anyway, that's my advice to you, Kling, as far as what you want to get into next. I mean, the game needs you in whatever capacity, but I would love to see more female coaches because I just think we're in a special situation to help these young women and young girls out. Yeah.
The podcast is going perfectly because Kling's going to be playing on the beach soccer national team and coaching by the end of this. We are basically just doing interviews so that she can get new roles and hobbies in life or passions or whatever it is. And guess what?
It's called networking.
I don't disagree. Also, I'm sold. Everything that was just said sold me that you should do it. But I do want to touch back on one thing as you went through that, which you kept saying we. So your husband you met playing soccer and he played soccer and then you coached together and then you got that phone call and you coached together. Can you walk us through a little bit the experience of being co-coaches?
Yeah, so weird. But okay, so when I was telling you that we were doing this side gig of club soccer, like he had a young team, I had a young team, and we were each other's assistants. So that's how that started. And then, we started a camp business the same year in California, and, we started it from the ground and we did everything for that. And it was so cool because I hired all my teammates from, and Chukleys, Cape, like I had all these like
Smart.
people.
That's just smart.
And, we brought together this amazing staff, and that was awesome and successful. But so I did that with Tim, right? So we worked as each other's assistants. Then we started this little company, and during that, not realizing, it wasn't like, okay, you do X, Y, and Z, and I'll do X, Y, and Z. I think we just really complement each other, and I leaned towards the things that I like to do. He leaned towards the things that he liked to do, which also happened to be what we're good at. That's what you usually do. And so out of the blue, we get a call from Virginia Commonwealth University, the athletic director from that university. They're looking for, our predecessors were a husband and wife duo. Yes. And then talking about networking, like the AD went to Carolina. So he wasn't an athlete. He wasn't an athlete, but he was in a fraternity, and one of his fraternity brothers was a Carolina men's soccer player. So, there's all these connections. And basically they were like, yeah, would you be interested in coaching? And it's a solid mid-major D1 school, had some success. The coaches before us did well. And I was like, I actually do not want to move to the East Coast. Like, we just moved back to California. I'm like, this is not what we want to do. But we're like, we should go out there and check it out. It's really embarrassing to think back about what that interview day looked like, because Tim and I were so, you don't know what you don't know. So you don't come in like prepared, because you don't even know anything. And so, I mean, we probably looked so lame, but anyway, they did hire us. They did hire us, and we were there for 6 years, and we leaned on each other. We leaned on the other coaches in the department. I was calling all my mentors, anybody that I can call that can help us out. And, we learned how to recruit, and it's not hard, right? It's like, I mean, it's soccer, so things aren't always going to go your way, but recruiting is the biggest thing, 'cause you're only as good as your players, in my opinion.
Right.
But getting to pour myself into young women at that age, I realized, I mentioned before, like, it didn't fill my cup. I realized this was so satisfying. So when we get to experience what we've experienced, playing, it's hard, because you're like, well, anything ever match that? And I think that was really scary. I don't know if you're having those feelings, but it's right.
Well,
like, don't you
well,
feel?
yeah, that's something that I was curious about for you. Like, how did you find something that gave you the same spark? Like,
Right. Well, I didn't know. That's the thing. Like, I didn't know what it was. So it wasn't like I was like, oh, I'm taking this job because I know it's going to fill my cup. I'm just like, okay, this landed in our lap. Maybe we should try it. And I'm like this type of person where, I don't know, I'm always like, things happen for a reason. There's like omens. Like, I'm always like, oh, it's like you attract things. Like, I just feel like that the world is like that. And so, I'm like, there's a reason why this came to us and it fell into our lap. It's not easy just to get a Division I job, like, out of the gate, like, maybe we should just try it, because it did just kind of special as it happened, And so we went for it, and now it's been 18 years. So we were at VCU for 6 years, and then we've been here at UCF. So we've only been to 2 gigs, and they did ask for both me and Tim to coach together, which was also nice, because it's like your comfort, I'm like, oh, I got to bring like my comfort person with me, and we can like go through this together, fail together. So that does make it a little bit easier, I think, when you got your person with you side by side, and we're both like handling this new job together. And then, now we've been doing it for 18 years, and I would not do this job without him. Like, he's my buddy. Like, He's right. We actually can see each other because we have mirrors as or windows as doors. He gets more annoyed with me. I think that I get annoyed with him, but he's learned how to deal with it. So, yeah.
You mentioned the amount of time for coaches, any level, any place, anywhere. It's really hard to have a great run. You've been at Central Florida for over a decade. You've got a season that is right on the verge. It was one of the reasons we were able to get together and have this conversation. Talk a little bit about what the experience been like and sort of what the expectations are for this season and the landscape of the, you know, the national rankings and where you think things will fall.
Yeah. So at UCF, we've been really lucky. I mean, we've had great athletic directors, people that support me and Tim and our vision. I think that's really important to find a place where you could be who you are. And we create enough pressure for ourselves, right? Like to work, I'm a competitor, Tim's a competitor. We want to win. We want to recruit the best players. And, but we've always felt supported here at UCF. And for me, it's like a package. The whole package fits our team. We have 2 daughters too, and their team. So they grew up here. We moved to UCF when they were 3 and 5. So now they just first day of school today. So they're starting sophomore year and senior year. And, but for us, like being able to develop, like, you know, I started coaching not knowing this was my job. So it's not like I sat and thought like, oh, what is my coaching philosophy? What's going to be my recruiting philosophy? You know, I mean, this has been an ongoing process for 18 years.
Build the airplane as you fly it sort of situation.
Yes, so that's what we've been doing. But I'll tell you, kind of getting back to what I was saying before, was like what I've realized, this job really fills my cup, and it has matched, or maybe, I mean, it sounds kind of ridiculous saying it, that it's even better, but it does. It just feels like you're helping others, and you feel like you have the knowledge and the expertise and the empathy to like help young people. Like that is, for me, that is really, really satisfying. And so when you're a player, it's kind of a little more selfish. I mean, of course you're on a team and you want to win and you're doing it for the team and we're growing the game. And so there's things much bigger than yourself in that environment, but you're still like thinking about your body and you got to be fit and you got to do this and you're trying to make the team. We're here. It's kind of cool. Like I don't think about myself at all. You know, I'm just thinking about how do I help this group of people be the best that they can be. And it's not about me. And I love that. And I love helping them. So anyway, this job has filled my cup. And yeah, I mean, we've had our ups and downs. The thing that I've learned about being a coach is, you know, it's soccer, and we've learned it as players that you could be the best team out there and the most prepared, and there's a little bit of luck involved, I've learned over the years.
Yes.
And you're going to win some, you're going to lose some. Some you're going to win that you don't deserve. You're going to lose some that you don't deserve. And so for me, it's always about having like a strong foundation, because those things are dynamic, right? Like when we win and lose, things are going to happen. But for me, it's like, how consistent can I be for our players? How process oriented can I be for our players? So like, they don't see us reacting to every little result. So it's really important that I could just maintain this consistent behavior for them so they can rely on me and they can trust me. But we've grown this program together. And so I'll tell you straight up, we did not have a good season last fall. It was one of our most challenging seasons Tim and I've ever had as a coach in 18 years. We did step into the Big 12, so I think that has something to do with it. The Big 12 is you know, a very competitive conference, and we're learning that. And we need to grow into that. And yeah, last year was no bueno, but you know, there's no target on our back. And so that's a positive thing. And I feel like we have the right players on our squad. So preseason always goes great. That's what I tell the players, because I haven't had to make any hard decisions. Nothing hard has happened, right? Like I haven't made a travel squad. I haven't had to even make a starting lineup because everyone's playing in the preseason matches. Like everybody, the chemistry is always great. It's all positive. Everyone's happy and everyone's open. And then, you know, I got to make a travel roster today. So it's like, you know, there's going to start getting feelings. So for me, it's like, how do we really stick together through the hard decisions, the ups and downs? And believe me, we've had a lot of conversations about this stuff because I think that's a big part of it. But yeah, I feel cautiously optimistic You know, I think as a coach, sometimes you gotta, it's like you believe in it. You believe in it for sure. But you also kind of know this game. But at the end of the day, I love my team and they're badass women. And I love
And that's
coaching
really
them.
what matters.
Exactly. And I hang on
Yeah.
to that. And I hope my AD feels the same way all the time.
Yeah.
But the expectation, David, is that we win. I mean, that's why we're in this seat, and we want to win, and I want them to win. But it is important to me that they're developing as young women too, and they're learning how to fight for themselves. And when they leave this program, I hope they feel like they've developed as people here too. And I'm going to tell you a fun fact right now. So I'm talking a lot about characteristics, but we have the most pros. Right now we've got 30 pros playing professionally, or playing
Wow.
professionally, out of any school in the Big 12. So right now the stats are showing that we're developing the most pros out of here. So that's a big part of what we're doing here too, is that we want to help them play at the next level.
I'm sure that's a
which we're
really
doing.
good recruitment tool,
Yeah,
by the way.
that's awesome.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I made a little, we have a little thing, like a little graphic for that too.
Yeah,
now. So,
smart.
Yeah.
Very
yeah,
smart.
Yeah.
Speaking of recruiting, the college landscape is changing dramatically and rapidly, like to say the least. What is the future of college soccer?
I honestly, I don't know. And that's, there's so much out of my control. And so the way that I handle this is kind of just like, I'm a little bit like, I don't want to be naive, but there's a little bit of tunnel vision going, especially when the season starts, because all that stuff is just not in my control, right? So, but yeah, it's affected us. Like, we've had to cut down our roster, and so we're at a 28 player roster, and but we have been given more scholarships. So a real positive thing is, I feel like Oprah out here is like, who wants a scholarship? Like, everyone's just getting scholarships around here. So that's really positive, just that opportunity with scholarships, but it's gonna become more competitive. But it's so early with this house settlement and the decisions that we've had to make with this house settlement, and how things are gonna play out. It's really too early for me to know how to navigate what's happening. So it's a little bit one day at a time, but kind of just do what we're told to do, and you got to go with it. But it's been positive on our team because a 28 player roster, I think, is solid, and we have a lot more scholarships now. So I think it's a positive thing. And the players, I want them to be able to get paid some. Do I want it to be all about that? No. I think there's a lot of value in education, and I think we've lost sight in that. But I will still preach that.
We could do this, I think, all day. I'm going to call you Coach Tiffany. I feel a little bit more comfortable, more confident in this space, but I haven't won a World Cup, so I haven't cursed yet. So still somewhere in between, but you have to coach and you have work to do. So we want to finish you on this one, which is just, we've talked all the way back through from being a teenager at a World Cup and playing in an Olympics and the 99ers and changing the landscape of women's sports and sports in general and through the leagues and coaching. What would you say when you look back on your time so far of what you're most proud of, and whatever it is, whichever direction you want to go in?
For me, it's like what our team did together as a group, because I think when you look at the national team, back in the day, we can ask Kling this, but I don't know. I feel like you guys see us as a group. Of course, Mia Hamm and some names, but I think that what was so impactful was we were so together, and we were so united, and we all felt like we couldn't do it without each other. And that's what that's what I speak on today, like within my team, where we're not going to do it as individuals. So I'm just proud to be part of such a legendary time of women's soccer players, and this being a little bit younger than them, like they were the best role models for me, like any person could ever have. So I think that's what I'm most proud of, that I'm really a part of that.
Meet your heroes is the
lesson of
the lesson here. Yeah. Thank you so
Definitely.
much for having this conversation with us. It has been a true honor for me as a little kid who was inspired by the women's national team, and one of the only reasons why I continued playing and wanted to go to UNC. And you're one of them. So I have truly, truly, truly enjoyed this conversation. And Goss, it's been okay having you on here as well.
Listen, I'm just here for the national championship preview we do of UNC versus UCF later in the year.
Let's go.
Let's
We can-
go.
We can get everything lined up for that. Coach, we appreciate you taking the time. Thank you, and we'll talk to you then.
Best of luck, guys. Thank you so much.
Well, as you could tell, I think we could have gone all day with that interview. Unbelievable time chatting with Tiffany Roberts Sahaydak. Thank you so much for taking the time. Kling, I think you felt the parallels a little bit as she came to the end of her career with what you're going through right now. And it feels like it only gets better because she seems ecstatic about where she has landed.
Yeah, I think when you pour your heart and soul into one career from the moment you were 5 years old, not that I knew it was a career at that point, but it ended up just turning into something that was beyond my wildest dreams. When it ends, it is a really weird inflection point in a life. I'm 37 years old, just turned, and I'm retiring from a job that I love and have become the best in the world at. That's just such a different perspective that not many people have to go through. And so getting to hear from one of my idols, being a little kid in a candy shop, talking to one of my favorite players and people that I loved watching in the 1999 Women's World Cup, hearing her perspective and hearing that, you know, she's found something else that totally fills her up, that really is a wonderful message for me to hear in this moment.
And I think for all of us, and I think for a lot of us, we are sort of watching from the outside as you see these great legends do things like that. But it is awesome to hear from Coach that you can pass along a lot of that passion and energy or find it in another activity. We appreciate the time she took to talk to us. We appreciate all the guests we've had recently. We've gotten to talk about the extended national teams. We've gotten to talk about some of the great amateur teams that have done great things in soccer in the U.S. because of that passion, because of that joy, as well as some of the people that are on top leading the biggest leagues. So go back and listen to all of our past episodes if you haven't already. And don't worry, we've got another big one lined up for you next week. So we'll be back soon. But for now, thank you for listening. This is the U.S. Soccer Podcast. Soccer fans, don't miss it. On September 9th, the U.S. men's national team is back in Columbus, Ohio, taking on Japan at Lower.com Field. Columbus is known as the Fortress for a reason. The U.S. has a long history of winning big matches there, and the energy is always electric. Get your tickets now at ussoccer.com/tickets and be a part of the action as the USMNT defends home turf against Japan.